How to achieve such progress with physiotherapy. You will find out in this lecture.
My name is Slobodan Vujesic. I'm the co-founder of BDA Therapy. I came from Serbia. Today I'm going to talk about therapy and why we choose the Pragma system for verticalization, which was designed and made here in Poland. BDA Therapy stands for a biomechanical developmental approach, and majority of our patients are kids with cerebral palsy and other developmental issues. So today I'm going to talk about what are we doing, so why are we doing that. I will show a lot of pictures about some issues that the child have. It was going to put quite interesting perspective on the child with cerebral palsy. I hope it will be understandable. Unfortunately, I will speak on English language. So let's put it like this. When we think about child development, we always think about function, right? So what the child is doing and what the child is not doing. But there is another whole picture. It's basically development of the child structure. So when I say development of the child structure, I mean you have a baby, and when the baby grows, it transforms, it changes. It's not anymore baby when it's 2 or 3 years old. So the chest is going to change, the spine is going to change. Many parts of the body will go through some structural changes, and they are very much in tune with what the child is doing. So you can imagine there is going to be a big problem if you're trying to teach the child to do something and the structure is not really supporting that. So a big focus, is on function, basically how to facilitate the movement. Majority of the therapies are focusing on that. But there is another big picture, another issue that the child might have, and that is a problem with the structure, because, the child could have a brain damage, but it could be any kind of developmental issue, it could be a genetic disorder, but the child is growing and it's not going to change in the same way as it should, and we are trying to teach the child to do some things, but if the child structure is not supporting that, we have a big problem, so we need to address that. So I will explain on what level we are addressing that. So of course, when we say structural problem, majority of therapists and professionals will think about range of movement, like what is movable, what is not movable. But I'm going to put another perspective. It's not just about the movement. There is other issues that the child might have. We are focusing a lot on the biotensegrity. So biotensegrity is basically ability of our body to support itself. When you sit, you're all sitting now, you're not using a lot of your muscles to sit. That's because you relaxed and your body is under pressure. So that pressure in your body is enough to create compression and tension. So the balance between the compression and tension is what is holding you. So you can sit for the whole day, very energy efficient. You don't use so much of your muscles. So look at this. You have this tent here, and you can imagine it's a soft tent. So this tent, it's lacking the tension. There is no tension in this tent, so it's kind of a tent, but it's weak. And here you have a stronger tension, a tent which have more tension. So I'm talking about the tension, because usually when we say tension, it's something bad. Like the child have a lot of tension, so how to release the tension. But I'm going to talk about a completely different story. I'm going to talk about how bad it is when there is no tension in the child body. And I'm not talking about muscle tension. I'm going to talk about connective tissue. So here we see one interesting thing. We all take this for granted. We have ability of our body to resist deformation. So, you have a chest, and if somebody try to compress your chest will resist that. You will have a certain strength. So you can be completely relaxed. Somebody can press your chest, and you're going to be okay with that because you have this integrity. And what about if the child doesn't have that integrity, which we see almost all the time? The child with cerebral palsy could have this problem with integrity of the chest. So here I'm raising the child body, and when I raise the child body, we can see this kind of weaknesses. The chest is very soft, and you see it's deforming, and the stomach is bulging. The same thing we see here. Now we don't see it here. So this is a healthy child. So the healthy child has strong chest. And with the strong chest, now the question is, why is this important, right? Okay, maybe some chest is not so weak and the other chest is strong. So let's see why is this so important? Well, let's put it like this. It's actually important for breathing. So why the integrity of the chest is important for breathing? Well, let's put it like this. The chest, the reason why we have the rib cage is because you need to have a certain integrity. Because the diaphragm is working up and down, it's going to change the internal pressure. So if you have a weak chest, and external pressure will start to create a lot of problem because we need to have this chamber which is strong because of the breathing. So let's put it like this. Here is a glass, right? And here inside there is like a small hole. So I'm going to breathe through this glass. And when I breathe through this glass, nothing happened with this glass because it's pretty strong glass. It have a chamber which is strong. So when I breathe through this small hole here, everything is okay. But here is another glass. So this glass is very soft glass. It's the integrity of this glass is not so good. So I'm going to breathe now through this glass, and you see it's deforming. So we have a problem now. So here we're going to see something which, if you work with the kids with cerebral palsy or some other genetic disorder, you see this all the time. So I'm going to just emphasize this. So what do we see here? Look at that. The lower ribs are popping out. So the child is trying to inhale the air, and when the child inhales the air, these lower ribs are popping out here, and here the upper part of the body is not expanding. So it's basically the lower part go out, the upper part stay the same, or it's actually collapsing. So we see with many kids when they breathe, they get this hole here. So it's like instead of expanding, it's sinking. So this is the effect of BDA therapy. So we did some exercise on the child, which of course I'm going to explain everything what we did, and you start to get this. You're starting to get this expansion, completely different way of breathing. So now, why is this breathing important? I'm not going to talk now about oxygen saturation and this kind of stuff. I'm going to talk about how we move and how our body is responding will influence how our body is changing through time, because the baby is developing, it's transforming, is changing, and the way how it's breathing will influence how the chest will change through time. If the child is breathing like this, it will not have such a good effect on the way how the chest will change and expand through time, right? And if the child is breathing like this, the chest in time will get volume. It will start to develop as it's supposed to develop. And well, this is not just about for the chest to be big. I mean, it's not like so much important if you just think from that perspective. But the whole point is when the chest is changing, many other things will change as well, because the chest is connected with the spine, right? So according to what is the shape of the chest will influence many things with the spine also. And the changes at the level of the chest will influence many other changes. But we are not working only on the chest, which I'm going to explain further. So we saw like weaknesses contribute to bad breathing, strength, better breathing. So we go further. Here you can see some changes, because the beautiful thing about this is that you can actually change this. That's a great thing, because you can have a child that have a very weak chest. We are not expecting of the child to do anything here. This is a passive thing. You see, I'm not showing you active engagement of the child. I'm talking about how the child is just responding to its own body pressure. And we can see in the beginning, the child look like this. The pressure is, the chest is depressed. Here, the chest is strong. Here, the chest is weak. Here, the chest is strong. Here, the chest is weak. Here, the chest is strong. This is what I do, for example, on the assessment of the child. So we are basically recording when the child comes, and we are doing different things. And you see, when I press the chest, we see this. The chest is soft and the stomach is bulging. And then after some time, when I press the child's chest, it becomes stronger chest. So my point is that this kind of weaknesses, internal weaknesses, is possible to change, and it is important for the child. It's important for the breathing. It's important for the development of the torso. That is important for development of the spine, because we were not born with the spine as we have now. The spine is changing through time. It is transforming. A small baby have different spine than it's supposed to have it when the child is 3 years old. So it will have a little bit flat spine, and then it's starting to develop these physiological curves. So what do we see with most of the kids? With most of the kids, we see that their pelvis is tilted backwards because the spine have one big curve. It doesn't have physiological curves. It doesn't have more curves. So then we work on the torso, chest, breathing, spine, and the child start to be able to make different curves, and that become very important for the child function. So now I come to the function, because eventually it's all about what the child is going to do, and we can only facilitate certain movement. And if the child feels that the body itself is struggling with that, maybe it will do it, but it will struggle and do it for a short period of time. So the motivation with the child become really bad. Basically, the therapist in most of the time really have to work a lot on motivating the child just about to do anything, even if we know that the child can do something. For example, can happen. The child can hold the head for some period of time, but then he gets tired and he's not holding the head. Or the child can sit, and we know that the child can sit when there is a motivation, when there is a cartoon, but the child after some period of time is refusing. He doesn't want to put this additional engagement because just for him to sit, it's so difficult. So when we make certain things easier for the child, then of course all our other therapies which are based on facilitation become much more easier. So here we can see one example. Like this is the same child, and we are saying to the child, okay, make your back straight, try, back straight, try. You see, he's struggling to do it. He can make the spine straight, but where are the physiological curves there? And then this is after 6 months. So you see, there is a big change there. We can make this kind of beautiful curves in his back. So what does it mean? It means that this way of manipulating with the position of the pelvis is extremely important for sitting. Because if we cannot really work with our pelvis, then, if you go to one side, you have to use the upper part of the body or your hands to go back. So we need to have the good pelvis and mobility of the pelvis to have the good independent sitting where the arms become free. So, and I talk about sitting, but this and chest, but this is not a whole picture, because our body is responding to pressure in all situations. So you see, when I'm standing and if I want to raise one leg, what's going to happen with my pelvis? Here, some movement is going to happen. I really didn't do this actively. I didn't even think about that. It just happened to my body. It happened to all of you. You just raise one leg and your pelvis will make some movement. And this movement is done in perfect way, because when he tilt here, make a rotation and goes to the side, you're immediately putting all your weight to this leg. And when you put your weight to this leg, then this leg is free to move. So that means that when I step and when I raise this one, the pelvis goes this way, I'm free to move this leg. But imagine you raise this leg and nothing happened with your pelvis. What happened? You're falling to the side. So, or you will not fall to the side if you compensate, right? You can compensate by bringing this arm here or the head there, and then you're going to walk like this, which I think all of you saw with the kids, or for example, maybe even doing something like that, so I don't have to move my pelvis at all, so the pelvis can be stable, but my leg is here, so I'm going to do it like this. So look at this. So here we can see a healthy child on the left side. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. I mean, that's how it's supposed to be, right? So that's good. So now we see here a child which have, it's a cerebral palsy, but she's pretty good. But, difficulties with walking. Look where the arms are. And on the left side, you see one movement of the pelvis. On the right side, you see completely other movement of the pelvis. Of course, you can see completely other movement of the arms and everything, right? So what did we did here? You see, we changed something. We changed the reaction to pressure. And when we change the reaction of pressure, the child start to walk in different way. When you start to walk in different way, you see completely different position of the leg. And, the video just about explain everything. This is interesting. This is from 1 week ago. So, biomechanical developmental approach. What do we focus on? We focus on how the body responds to pressure. Okay, so this is not so much about, I understand the brain is damaged. Okay, I'm not crazy. So I understand that there is spasticity and all these other things. But we also recognize some other problems of the child. And we want to know what is happening with the child body in different situations, how the child body is responding to pressure, and when the child is motivated, or when we facilitate the child to do something. So in these situations, it's very, very important that we get a proper responses of the body, which will make it easier for the child. Because when it becomes easier for the child, then, things goes in a good direction. So what do? We use different kind of pressure. We put the child in different positions, and we are examining how the child is responding in those positions. Then with our hands, we facilitate the responses of the body, okay, which are in context of the child function, of course. So here you want to see some examples, because there are so many different things. So I will show what we do on the chest, what we do in different positions, and then you will slowly understand why we choose Pragma. There you see, I'm putting some materials there, because what do I want to do? I want to create pressure, but I don't want to deform the chest. Because if I create the pressure on the chest and I deform it, and I do that all the time, the chest in time will become just softer. You all know that. Mobilization techniques make a lot of movement on the chest, it will become softer. Sometimes it is desirable thing, especially if somebody have a stiff back or something like that. But what about if somebody have a weak chest? Then the pressure on the chest, it can make a problem for the child. That's why we do it, the pressure, which is not creating deformation. We press the chest without creating the deformation. And for that, we use different tools. So there is some memory foam, yoga mats, so we are distributing the pressure, and I'm also going to create some tension I'm going to pull the skin a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. So, and by doing, and what I do then I just follow the way how the child is breathing. Can you imagine how simple it is? Like, it's so simple, everybody can do it. I can teach you to do that in a matter of 5 minutes. Like, relax your hand, just create a little bit of pressure, and now you pull a little bit to the side, and now you follow the child breathing. That's all what it takes. It's beautiful because we can easily teach the parents. And actually, this is what we are doing in most of the time. I hold the courses all around the world, and I'm teaching the parents how to do these therapies, how to do these kind of things, because it's easy. It's so easy. And then some other things, for example, the child could be on the knees. I mean, the child is on the knees, we have an issue with the position of the pelvis, we have an issue with position of the spine. So then what do? We facilitate different positions. She's now working on the sacroiliac joint, because when she makes some pressure, the sacroiliac joint is supposed to make some nutation movement in the pelvis. And if that is not happening, if it's going towards the counter nutation, then we do the opposite, which is, we go in the direction where it's supposed to be. So if you do this once in a week, then zero points. You get nothing. If you do that 2 times a week, you're still not going to get much, right? So if you do 3 times a week, a little bit. If 4 times, you're already going somewhere. So that's why we actually try to teach the parents and educate them how to do this kind of exercises. And of course, we also do it in our center. So then we can see some other things, spasticity management. So this is an interesting story, because look at this. Very overactive stretch reflex, right? So tremor, overactive stretch reflex equal tremor, right? So I just touch it here and we see it's very, very overactive. So this is really a beautiful thing, because the tremor in time is getting bigger and bigger. The brain damage is not bigger and bigger, but tremor is getting bigger and bigger. So why does it get bigger and bigger if the brain is not more damaged? It's getting bigger and bigger because of the muscle fibrosis, and there is so many research which are supporting that. In time, the child have more and more muscle fibrosis. What happened then? You start to have a problem with the stretch reflex, which threshold of activation of the stretch reflex become like very low. So with a very small stimulation, you will get that. And in this situation, if I try to make a movement, then I'm getting this blocked movement. So if I go very slowly, the movement will happen. But if I go fast, then I'm activating the stretch reflex. So then what do we do in this situation? Well, if it's a problem of the muscle fibrosis, that means the endomysium, that is the connective tissue which is enveloping the fiber, the muscle cells. If it's very dense and it's not able to properly adapt and change its shape during the faster movement, then we put the movement there. And thanks to the hypsotrophy effect, we get better adaptation. Then what do we get? So here you see, first of all, we use again different kind of materials. I'm wrapping the leg with this. We buy this in Decathlon, nothing special, just to make a little bit of compression. And then it's not flosking and that stuff. You have nothing to do with that. And then we are applying the pressure on the tissue, and at the same time pressure movement in the knee. And then what is the effect? The effect is this: that after that I can make a faster movement, and the movement is going to happen. And of course, it will go back to how it was after about maybe sometimes 10 minutes, maybe after 2 hours, but that's why you don't get a lot of effect if you do it just one day. So here we can see another position. So here I'm putting the child in standing position. So what did I do here with the legs? So this is not like this is what we do. We put a memory foam around and we want to create a compression. The reason why we make a compression is because we want to emphasize the connective tissue respond in the leg. So now we want to make a movement of the weight transfer from one leg to another leg. But at the same time, we want to get the proper response of the upper part of the body. Because in reality, the legs are the least important thing for walking. I mean, if you have everything else which work well, you can walk on your pelvis without the legs. And if you don't have pelvis control, you can have very good legs, forget about the walking. So my point is that the upper part of the body reactions are the most important, and this is what we are focusing on. because when this start to work, then the legs follow. So let's put it like this. How do we changing? What are we doing to change that? So here we are basically using the ball, creating compression on the stomach. Then I put in something else here. So what I did now, I changed the tension. I'm changing the tension in the upper part of the body. Very light. The balls are allowing the child to move, but I'm changing the way how the connective tissue will respond. And then from that point, I'm slowly just going to, put weight from one leg to another leg, from one to another. What do I want to change? I want to change the pelvis sliding, pelvis tilt, because many times it happens, we go here, the pelvis just completely buckle like that. I want to change that. So we come there, I want to get the movement which will happen, but not excessive, not too big. I want to get the movement which will be stopped by the reaction of the structure, of the tissues. And then why did we choose Pragma? Well, we choose Pragma because it gives us this freedom to work around the child. We can put the child in all the positions. And when we put the child in all we were searching for certain device for a long period of time. And in reality, majority of the things are connected with neurorobotic, which is fine. I'm not against neurorobotic. I think it's a great thing. We have high expectations, the future, what's going to happen with that. But for our therapy, we needed a freedom to make a certain movement with the child and respect the child neutrals. We have to go where the child is going without external frame, which is on the way for our hands to work there. So here we are with the Pragma, we can do so many different things. We can put the child in almost all positions. We are free to put the child in all positions, and it's very easy to implement. Look at here, the child is moving all around, and we are not afraid that she's going to fall, so it gives some freedom there. And then, we can raise, and then there are these elastic tubes, and we can change them. We can give more or less support to the child, and they will respond to the child movement. And the other thing, which is really amazing, and like I said, we really emphasize working with the parents, trying to teach them, and this device is affordable. It can be applied in every house. It's easy for the parents to get that, and they will really get a great therapy. So look at this. This we actually installed in one parent house in Serbia, and you can see the child had a big problem. This is a big scoliosis, right? So this child can only sit in some cast. It can only sit there. And then what's the problem? Then how are you going to make any kind of movement with that child if he's already completely supported and he cannot move? So we want to make some kind of ability to give a child enough of the support, but still make some kind of movement, make some kind of therapy for that torso. And we did this. And you know what's the funny thing about this? I came to her house. I'm not so much, tell you the truth, we are still learning about Pragma. And I came there, and when I saw how much the child was deformed, I thought to myself, how I'm gonna use this Pragma with this child? He's completely tipping to the side. What I'm gonna do? And the mother, she started telling me, why don't you put this? Why don't you do that? Why don't you try this? And then I did something, and she said, he's not breathing. This is bad. You have to do that. And I was just standing there looking at her, and I said, can I come after 1 month to check what you are doing? Because I think I've learned a lot from you, So it's very intuitive thing. It's a very intuitive thing. And look what, she got this. Here, look at that beauty. There he is. This is supporting him. He have a home-based school, so now he can actually sit there. They can put something in front of him. The teacher come, and they do some really nice things there. And, they can modulate. They can press the button, and it goes down. So now, try to sit, try to stabilize yourself a little bit, and then he get tired, whoop, it just goes up. So it's very easy to change stuff. And here I'm just going to show some results, because we're not working just with the kids with cerebral palsy. Actually, we work with all the kids that have disability issues. This is the child with the spinal muscle atrophy, and you can see here. So, big problem with they have a big problem with breathing. That's all of them. Very narrow in the upper part of the body, very wide in the lower part, because that's how they breathe, and when they breathe like that, that's how their body form. And of course, muscle weaknesses. But you cannot count to strengthen the muscle with child that have this kind of issue. You cannot really count on that. How are you gonna count that you're gonna strengthen the muscle with a child that have a spinal muscle atrophy? So then what do? We try to make the child more energy efficient by strengthening other things, which are not muscles, which are actually making the muscles, which are making it easier for the muscle to function. So this was the therapy. He did 4 hours every day in our center, 5 times a week. And look at that. That is after 4 months. Now, this is not just about what he's doing. Look at his chest. Look at his shoulders here. Look at the neck. You can actually see his neck. You can see the upper part of the body is very different, and he started to sit independently. So it was really amazing. And especially we have great results with the kids that have this kind of issue. This is the child with genetical disorder. This is the first time she came, and a big problem with standing, the big problem with walking. She couldn't do much. So this is after 4 months, and she started to, I'm traveling a lot, and there, I just heard, okay, now you do re-examine her. I'm sitting there, and there she came. I just took my telephone recording. That was amazing, because I didn't even expect that. So you can see those changes, and it goes like that. And the beautiful thing about this, do you know how much time we spend on teaching her how to walk? 0. In Pragma, she was standing. We didn't do much of the walking. So she was doing that spontaneously. She would climb on something in half. She would hold herself. She would go a little bit left. She would go a little bit right. For us, that is the most important thing, because the child's spontaneous activity is the main source of progress. And people have a tendency to forget that. Everything that the child is doing at home without any therapy have the biggest effect on the child development. That's a fact. Because you can do every day maybe 1 hour the therapy, and then what happened? Remaining time the child will do what it wants to do. It will breathe the way how it's breathing, it will move the way how it's moving, it will move in his own way, and the way how the child is doing these things will actually make these kind of changes, which eventually will be responsible for how far away the child can actually progress with function. So here we can see another child. This is the parents did this therapy, not in our center. This is 6 months, after 6 months, 6 months, so it was the courses every 6 months. The parents come and we examine the child, and we give another exercises, so we kind of follow what is happening with the child. And here you see, in the beginning here, there was a big problem with torso. The child was very weak, the torso was deforming. Then you see that the torso started to become stronger, then more and more stronger, and eventually she came to the last course and she started to have some independent sitting. It's not really something that she can use functionally, but it is showing that she got much better. And later I'm going to show her, to show to you what happened with her spine. But before that, if we talk about how the body is responding to deformation, then we actually know what's going on with scoliosis. Because here we can see extremely weak spine, and you can see what is happening through time. Extremely weak torso. The scoliosis problem is at least, it's not really a big problem with the spine there, it's mostly with the rib cage and how the child is distributing the weight and how he's breathing. But I don't have time to talk so much about that. You can kind of look what's going on here. I'm just going to put some hint there, and you can actually see, this is the same girl, 6 plus 6 plus 6. You can see what was going on here. Look at this weakness, this emptiness on this side there. And you can see left and right side starting to be different. This is a child about 25 years old. Look at the left side, completely weak, and then this side started to kind of emerge. It started to be more filled up because he started to breathe there. And then here we can see how he was before, and you can see here, big scoliosis, we can see the same child, where is the hump? The hump is gone. So what are we doing on the hump? Actually not much. We are working on the depressed side. And on the depressed side, we want to get the breathing. So I heard today about many interesting things, great things about diets. So the diet is of course very important, but this is more like like you have a diet which is based on food, and you also have a mechanical diet. Let's put it like that. Because our connective tissue need nutrients, but it also needs mechanical stimulation. So you can give the child this kind of mechanical stimulation or this kind of mechanical stimulation. So it's almost like a diet there. And you can see here, this child had a very big problem with gaining weight. He's 12 years old. 12 years old, and a big problem with gaining the weight. So you can see the tissue quality there, and then just look at that, like very, everything really, I think you see. So this is the result. There you go. So that is before, and this is after. It's not about the child that just gained the weight. It is also about how the whole chest look like and how the general health of the child look like. And the mother there is talking a little bit about that. So thank you very much. Thank you for your attention. I hope it was understandable.